we get to the morality of what the president did, I just want, if you could walk us through. The president said he's going to go to the Supreme Court to try to stop the ballots from being counted. I'm not exactly sure what the strategy is. Is there a way for him to go to the Supreme Court and ask them to stop the counting of valid legal ballots from valid legal voters?
No, there's really not, Jake. There's no natural path to that. There are procedures for, as the Vice President said, continuing to count the votes. And you can certainly contest under each state's law the process of the way the election took place, and ultimately you can try and get an appeal before the Supreme Court. There's no direct right of appeal for something like this to the Supreme Court.
The president is taking issue with the counting of ballots in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. He is describing it as to stop voting, as if people are still voting, but that's not what's going on. These are legal votes that have already taken place. They just need to be counted, right?
Yes, there are legal votes that have taken place. The voters have made their expressions. They're in the receipt of all the state officials, with the exception of Pennsylvania, which has its own law that extends the deadline. So these are all legally cast votes, and the process of trying to toss them out for some reason would just, I think, be viewed by any court, including the Supreme Court, as just a massive disenfranchisement that would be frowned upon.
I mean, I'm looking at the numbers in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, as well as Arizona and Nevada, North Carolina and Georgia. I don't know who's going to be elected. It could well be President Trump. If you were advising him, what would you be advising him to do right now?
I think you have to let all the votes be counted and watch it very carefully. And if you have objections to either particular ballots or to the process, then you have remedies after the fact through each state's individual contest laws or recount laws if the margins are close enough. But I mean, these are legally cast ballots, Jake, or at least will be determined to be legally cast ballots by the appropriate local, county, state officials. And for a president to say we're going to disenfranchise those legally cast ballots really is extraordinary.
It's also extraordinary just because, I mean, beyond the undemocratic part of this and beyond the immoral or amoral part of this, I don't know one election lawyer that would be telling President Trump to do something like this, given the fact that he could very well win still.
Well, it is conceivable that he has found some, but I don't know how it could be successful and how, to a large extent, they'll be able to justify it in law to just bypass the state procedures and to disenfranchise people who legally cast their ballots under state law.
Now, Ben, I'm old enough to remember when there was a big election fight in Florida. And one of the things that was going on at the same time was there was a very close election in New Mexico, where Al Gore won New Mexico, and George W. Bush's campaign, which you were a part of, was thinking about challenging that, but then realized it would be inconsistent and hypocritical to be making one argument in Florida and the complete opposite argument in New Mexico, so you guys dropped the New Mexico thing because there was one principle you wanted to fight on. Here we have President Trump in the course of one speech talking about how mad he is because Fox called Arizona for Joe Biden, and at the same time, in the same breath, arguing the exact opposite, that we shouldn't be counting on votes coming in and still being counted by election officials in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
Yeah, it was not really a consistent position. And one of the things about being in a recount or a contested election is that you do have to maintain some consistency. But inevitably, the consistency begins with recognizing the right to vote in this country and how each individual voter has a right. Now, there may be rules for the way ballots themselves need to be verified, and there may be instances when the margins of elections are breathtakingly close and fall within a state's required recount, but that's very different from what we heard tonight.
Ben, you've been a respected Republican lawyer, election lawyer for decades. I think you go back to Indiana's Bloody Eighth, which is an obscure reference and only political super nerds will recognize. But have you ever seen anything like this before from a president of the United States?
No, not even close.
And what's your take on it? What's your take on the president, the Republican president of the United States, coming out and, in your view, as you already said, attempting to disenfranchise hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of American voters?
Well, it's a distressing moment for me as a longtime Republican to see a call to disenfranchise so many people in the Republican Party. And I think really everyone who was on the ballot for the Senate or the House or a local office today recognizes the value of individuals' votes and how what we do is try and preserve them and honor them. And so what the president said tonight is not only unprecedented and it not only lacks any basis in the law, it really is a disservice to all the other men and women who are on the ballot Republicans today.
All right, Ben Ginsberg, thank you so much for your time and expertise. We really appreciate it, and get some sleep. I'm sure we're going to be calling upon your services quite a bit in the next few days, weeks, months, who knows how long. Thank you so much.